All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're digging into a chapter from the prophet Ezekiel that, well, it's basically a detailed blueprint for a national comeback. We're talking about a plan for renewal after a total, complete catastrophe. It's all about a second chance.
Here's a question we've all probably asked ourselves at some point. How do you make sure a fresh start doesn't just end in the same old failure? Now, imagine trying to answer that question not just for yourself, but for an entire nation. Well, believe it or not, this ancient text we're looking at, Ezekiel 36, it tackles that exact problem head-on. And the answer it gives? It's pretty surprising and honestly really profound.
Okay, so to really get the solution, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem. And it's a big one. The people of Israel, they've been exiled, kicked out of their own homeland. And it's into this mess that the prophet Ezekiel gets this divine message explaining the deep, kind of systemic reasons why everything fell apart.
And the text is super clear about this. The problem was internal. It wasn't an outside enemy, not really. It was a long history of sinfulness that had, metaphorically speaking, just defiled the very land they lived on. The prophet uses this really potent priestly term, uncleanness. Think of it as a spiritual corruption so deep that it completely shattered the relationship between God, the people, and their homeland. And the consequence? Expulsion.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Before Ezekiel goes public with this message of hope, God pulls him aside, gives him a sort of private briefing. And what he learns is fascinating. The exile didn't just create one problem, it created two. And these two problems are completely tangled up of each other.
So what we're looking at here is a dual crisis. On one hand, you have Israel's problem, right? Their internal moral, spiritual brokenness. But on the other hand, their failure created a problem for God. It was, for lack of a better term, a kind of public relations nightmare on the world stage. And this quote really nails God's side of the problem. See, you got to remember, in the ancient world, if your nation got conquered, it basically meant your God was weak, a loser. So when Israel gets exiled, all the other nations are looking on, pointing fingers and saying, "Ha, see, their God couldn't even protect them." And this, in Ezekiel's language, is what profaned God's name. It cheapened it. It wrecked his reputation.
So, God's big plan for renewal? It starts with a kind of emergency triage. He tackles the most urgent issue first, which isn't the people's sin, it's his own tarnished reputation. The first solution is all about fixing his name in the eyes of the world.
I mean, wow. This statement is just stunning. Let that sink in for a second. The motivation for this whole grand rescue mission is laid out clear as day. God says, I'm not doing this for you. It's not because they earned it or deserved a second chance. No. It's happening to restore God's own honor. And that's the crucial point, right? It means this whole plan is guaranteed to succeed, not because of the people's worthiness, but because God's own reputation is on the line.
So the plan is basically a huge public spectacle, a blockbuster event. God is going to act with overwhelming power, gather his scattered people from all corners of the earth, and bring them home. This new exodus is designed to be this massive, undeniable flex, a demonstration of power that will completely reverse the damage to his name and prove his holiness to a watching world.
And hey, this isn't just some dusty Old Testament idea. This deep, passionate concern for God's name, for his reputation to be seen as holy and sacred, it echoes centuries later. Fast forward to the New Testament, and what's the very first thing Jesus teaches his disciples to pray? Hallowed be your name. It draws a straight line right from Ezekiel's crisis to the absolute core of Christian prayer. It's that important.
Okay, so bringing the people back home fixes the external problem, God's reputation. Great. But that leaves this massive, glaring question, right? The elephant in the room. You can bring the people back to the land, but they're still the same people who made the mess in the first place. What's to stop history from just repeating itself all over again? And this is where the plan goes from a public spectacle to something truly radical. God reveals that the external rescue, that's just part one. It's not enough. To solve the internal problem, Israel's deep-seated brokenness, the people themselves have to be fundamentally changed from the inside out. So this internal fix, it starts with a total reset, a clean slate. Using this powerful metaphor of being sprinkled with clean water, God promises to completely wash them clean from all their past failures. Total forgiveness. I mean, you can't have a new beginning without that, right? It's step one. But just being forgiven doesn't guarantee you won't mess up again. So the next step is nothing short of a spiritual heart transplant. The text describes their old nature as a heart of stone, hard, stubborn, totally unresponsive to God. And that's going to be replaced with a heart of flesh, soft, living, sensitive, and actually able to follow God's ways.
So what's the power source for this new heart? I mean, this is the masterstroke of the whole plan. It's not just about trying harder or having a better attitude. God promises to put His own Spirit inside of them. That Spirit becomes the engine, providing the internal desire and the actual power to live this new way. It's a total inside-out job.
And boom, there it is again. This powerful two-part idea from Ezekiel pops right back up in the New Testament. When Jesus is talking to that religious expert, Nicodemus, and he says, you have to be born of water and spirit, he's not pulling that out of thin air. He's tapping right back into this promise from Ezekiel, the water of cleansing forgiveness and the spirit of radical internal transformation.
So let's step back. What happens when you put it all together? You solve the external problem of God's reputation, and you solve the internal problem by radically renewing the people's hearts. Well, the results? They don't just stay inside the people, they spill out and completely transform the world around them.
It's just a complete 180-degree transformation. The people, they go from sinful and unclean to forgiven and spirit-filled. The land itself, it goes from a defiled wasteland to a place so fertile and beautiful that people are comparing it to the Garden of Eden. And the population, from scattered and few to abundant and restored. It's that simple. A renewed people creates a renewed world.
Okay, let's bring this all home. Because after laying out this absolutely incredible plan for restoration, the text circles right back to where it started, to the motivation. And it's here to remind everyone of a really humbling, maybe even uncomfortable truth behind this whole thing.
The text just doubles down, so there's no misunderstanding. It's this stark, direct, almost blunt reminder. This second chance is not a prize you won. It's not a wage you earned. It is an act of what the text calls sheer grace, a gift given in spite of their past, not because of any goodness they mustered up.
So let's just quickly sum up the key takeaways from Ezekiel's blueprint for a second chance. First, the engine driving this whole thing, it's God's passion for His own honor. Second, the renewal itself, it's a gift, a totally free, undeserved act of grace. And third, the right response from the people, it's not pride, it's a humble memory of where they came from. A memory that's meant to fuel their gratitude for this unbelievable second chance.
And that leaves us with one last big idea to think about. If this ancient model holds true, if real lasting renewal isn't ultimately about us earning it, but is based on the honor and the grace of the one giving the second chance, what does that change about how we look at forgiveness, at fresh starts, and at new beginnings in our own lives and in our own world?